So you got our charts.
I do. I have your charts.
Feels so vulnerable.
I know.
I love this shit.
Naked and afraid.
Yes.
Yeah.
We are here with celebrity astrologer ALIZA KELLY. I'm so happy that you've come back to the show. I'm much more mentally stable too, as I feel like last time you were here, I was like in a coma. But how have you been since we've last chatted? There's a lot of really cool stuff going on with you.
Oh yeah, I mean, thanks for having me back. It feels like a nice homecoming. It feels like a good check-in. We should do this every couple of years to see where we're at.
Yes.
I mean, casual. Had a baby, got married, had a baby.
Cute.
Oh, that's what you got married to in that
I did
period
the whole,
of time.
Very
How was
traditional. It was great. It was good, yeah.
How's the baby having?
Baby having is a paradigm shift.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I imagine. That's got to be the biggest one.
Yeah, I mean, it's we were just talking about this a moment ago, but I'm in this very strange portal right now with my grandmother who's been passing away for the past 7 days.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. And 8 months ago, I was in the hospital having a baby, going through a portal of a multi-day process too. So it's just like really, yeah. So I'm very existential.
Yes,
I'm still spiritual.
Has astrology helped you with navigate these times?
Yes. I would say that it it's interesting because something that I write about a lot and I think about a lot is how astrology can enhance anxiety too if we're not careful.
Oh, for sure. That's me and tarot.
Yeah,
Every single day of my life.
It enhances your anxiety?
Oh my God.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
I'm an anxious girly. I'm a spiritual girly and I've been doing this professionally for a really long time, but I'm also have literal PTSD. I literally have generalized anxiety disorder. So it's an interesting thing to have these skills and these tools and to use them for good and not for evil for yourself when you're sort of like transit tripping and looking at like the worst case scenario of what's going to happen, or you're pulling cards and, projecting these nightmare situations onto them.
Yeah.
But through time, I think that I have really started to differentiate what the messages are that I'm receiving and my own personal anxiety.
Very helpful.
Yes.
Very helpful, I imagine.
Right. I mean, and if I couldn't do it, I'd be a mess.
Yeah. I'm realizing, I always knew this, but we are in control of how things go. We are in control of how we react to things. And we can, I used to think manifesting was please, please, but it's no, I'm calling this in. It's more direct. And so when you develop that type of energy around stuff, I feel all right, come at me, life.
Yeah.
What do you got?
Right. And also recognizing that we have our interpretation is always going to be skewed by what we are sort of willing into existence, even if it's not a positive thing, right? Because as humans, we're always trying to prove ourselves right. So if we are looking, if we have a narrative that we are unlovable, in our head, then we are going to see that played out in every way, across every dimension.
Evidence is everywhere.
Yes, exactly. Because we're always trying to affirm what we believe to be true.
Right. Which is the brain's natural process anyway, neurologically.
It is, yeah. I mean, it's a survival instinct. It's in our biology to do that. But when you have anxiety disorder, or even if you don't, chronically, if you're just in a period where you're feeling really stressed and confused, you're not necessarily going to be able to trust your interpretations of things. You're not going to trust your tarot spreads. You're not going to trust your astrology. Even if somebody intervenes and tells you, I wouldn't interpret it like this.
Yeah.
You're going to doubt them. You're going to be like, okay, well, I know.
Yeah.
I know.
Sorry, you're wrong, sir.
Yeah, exactly. So it's, it's a process and a practice in knowing how to work with the material in a way that is going to enhance and calm you rather than, perpetuate the catastrophizing.
Yeah, it's like that love-fear test of is this reading giving me, if it's giving you more anxiety, then it's coming from a place of fear. But if it's oh, okay, even if it's bad news, it could still come from a place of love and not cause you terror.
Right.
Which is wild.
Right.
It's a new skill I'm learning.
Yes. A few years ago, I was going through a transit that astrologically, that I was dreading. I was really afraid of it and I saw it coming and I had been prepping for it for years, and anticipating worst case scenarios around it. And at that time, something really did happen in my life that was really big, but it was actually extremely positive.
Oh, cool.
It wasn't bad at all.
That.
And from that experience, I realized that I am much more quick to project something negative onto something that is impactful. And it's much less likely that I'm going to be sitting there being like, maybe this is going to change my life in a really positive way.
Yeah.
And more like, oh, it's going to be doomsday. Like this is going to really end it all.
Yeah.
But we don't have those that often, you know? It really, if you feel a transit at all, it may not happen, right? It may just pass you by and you won't even notice it.
So just because it's in the stars doesn't mean you're fucked.
Right. It doesn't. Sometimes we are, but that doesn't, you know, it's not a chronic occurrence where we have these like really devastating, horrible things that happen, right?
Yeah.
Now, because this is a relationship podcast, like astrologically, did you see in your chart, like meeting your husband? Did you see that happening? Did you see getting married? That kind of stuff?
Well, you know, leading up to meeting Luke, my husband, I had been living in LA and I kind of overnight was like, I have to get back to New York. I have to move back to New York.
Oh,
I love a quick pull.
Yeah.
And you're like, all right, I'm just going to go with this.
Yes.
Fuck
and
it.
it was on my birthday, which happens to be on August 18th. So
it's coming
my
up.
birthday.
Oh my gosh, love it. And it was an eclipse. And I remember just, you know, on that day being like, that's it. I have to leave LA. I can't be here for another minute.
Yeah.
And I literally wrapped everything up and was out in less than a month.
Whoa.
And I had to like leave my car in the desert. Like it was
Wow.
chaotic.
Oh my
it
God,
was not normal.
cinematic.
I know.
What an indie
a
movie.
Leo, right? I had to like get out. So I moved back to New York, and less than 6 months later, I met Luke. And when I looked at his chart, because at that point I had gone on so many dates with so many shitty men who just so quickly sort of wanted to be demeaning about astrology or weren't like, gave me their birth info, but like really were just being dicks about it, you know, that weren't actually on the ride with me.
Right.
And Luke was the first guy, literally, that I met who was into it, who was like, I really like this, tell me more, and so earnestly. And when I pulled up his chart, I was shocked.
How early on were you dating when you pulled up his chart?
I think I pulled it up before we met in person.
Oh shit!
Yeah, I was like,
it
you
says
gotta.
here we're supposed to have a kid. So
No, I mean it was the most compatible chart I have ever seen with mine.
Wow.
And I really didn't even know what that could mean, because I was like, here I have the most compatible chart I've ever seen with my chart. There's no way that this guy that I just met is going to be, that this is going to work out, you know? So then it was something that might disprove astrology, right?
Yeah.
But astrology wins.
Wow.
Astrology
That's
wins
amazing.
again.
Well, I have a theory that I've concocted lately that I think the biggest argument for astrology being true is how rude men are about it.
Oh,
yeah, I love
100%.
So I go, oh, they know we're on to something.
Yeah.
That's why they're so fucking rude about it. But I will say behind closed doors, I find men to be quite curious and interested in like astrology and tarot, because they're always kind of like leaning over your shoulder like, oh, like, what are you doing there?
Yeah,
like, can
why
I
you
get
guys
in
like
on
this?
it? And I like that.
Yeah, I think that a lot of the pushback from them comes from this really, it's sad. It's sad.
It's masculinity doing them dirty.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like they don't even know how to start to peel back the layers,
Yeah.
you know? And then here come these witches rolling through with their
Exactly.
charts and their cards and this magic.
And if you look at a birth chart, it does look crazy. Like it looks like some advanced math that
it's
aliens wrote.
hieroglyphics,
Yeah.
you know? And so it's intimidating, it's scary. They don't have the, you know.
And you also have to like know yourself on a deep level. Well, not necessarily, but like knowing yourself on a deep level really makes you appreciate the things you learn about from astrology, like from your birth chart. Because you're like, that is like certain traits about yourself that you want to figure out or fix or lean into or whatever. It's really nice when like the stars tell you and you're like, I was right.
Yes. I mean, the classic thing that guys say is that astrology is sort of like the stereotyping, pigeonholing, like how can everyone born on May 16th be
Right.
the same, you know?
Right.
And
Rodney
it's so
Dangerfield on astrology.
literally,
Don't get it, guys.
yeah, actually. And the thing is with astrology is that that's so not actually how it works. I mean, astrology is so nuanced and it's so intricate, and there are so many different layers and levels and interpretations to it that it isn't just as simple as like, oh, every Taurus has the same sort of vibe, you know? Every Taurus might have some shared qualities, and they also are going to be completely different people manifesting and expressing that energy totally differently.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, one of the quickest examples when I'm confronted with somebody that's like, this is all phony baloney. It's like
Rodney Dangerfield again.
Yeah. Police officers have more officers on duty during a full moon.
Right.
There you go. Scientifically look at the stats. That's all. There's just an example, like a shade of an example of like a little bit of how the planets and how the energy, like solar flares are crazy. Like just there's all this stuff about space that I feel like you could make a guy connect with it.
Well, if animals change behaviors based on like the moon, why wouldn't we?
Right.
Yeah, like it makes sense.
Yeah. A few years ago, I had the unique opportunity of debating Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Ooh, because he's not astrology.
I know he hates
and
it.
He's also anti-alien and UFO. And to you, I say,
I mean, he's a
sorry to be
buzzkill.
wrong.
He's
Yeah,
he sucks. Like
I
these
was bummed.
stances. I mean, he doesn't suck. He's obviously like a very important astrophysicist.
Yeah.
Right. Like he's doing a lot, but he also, you know, he canceled Pluto. He was responsible for that.
Yeah.
He's a little bit
He's
of
a
a
buzzkill.
hater. Yeah,
Yeah.
he's a buzzkill. And it was really interesting because obviously, you know, he is someone, he's like, you know, in a video game, he would be like the beating of the boss, right? If you're trying to debate astrology, because he has all of the wisdom and all of the insight and like is a genius probably, you know? But even in that conversation, I felt like, am I 26 on a date again? You know, it was the same vibe. It wasn't this like high level conversation about why it's not real. It was the same arguments that like the dudes in LA
Like,
were
you
telling
silly
me.
girl. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, silly girl. Like, how could this be real? And it's like, well,
here's all this proof.
Right,
But
and,
how
like,
is it real though? Well, here's the proof I just showed you. And
yes.
it's like, yeah.
And like, there's so much that we don't know, right? And having that innate curiosity about things is how we learn and how we explore and how we as a society sort of progress, right? We have to be willing to say we don't know, and it's worth taking a look at rather than just writing it off completely.
Yeah.
And if all of these people for thousands of years have been working with astrology actively,
Yes,
then
a very long
maybe
time.
there's just something to be said for it.
Yeah, and you can look at all the errors that we've gotten wrong scientifically and historically about the Earth being flat, the sun revolving around the Earth. All of these theories that people were like 100% this is true have been completely proven false because we learn more as we grow. And maybe there's something about uncomfortable with the unknown with a science person that they're like the devil.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. It's a time of unknown, though, which is, I think, part of the reason that we've seen spirituality get more and more popular over the past couple of years, because just a lot of things, unexpected things have been happening, and people were like, well, I need to look outside myself a little bit more. Yeah. Have you seen that? Do you feel that way?
Oh, yeah. Man.
Yeah. I mean, it's really, it's been amazing to be on this journey, you know, which has now for me been over 10 years, right? Like, 10 years ago, astrology still felt like a weird aunt in Santa Fe with like turquoise and beads, who is like, which is a vibe.
Which I
like,
love
take
that
me
vibe.
back,
But yeah,
you know?
yeah.
Like I would love to go like through the beads into the room.
Yeah.
And like the patchouli, you know? Like astrology and spirituality has all gotten a little minimalist for my taste, you know?
Where's like the gaudy?
I need it to be gaudy.
Yeah.
I'm not into neutrals. So like for me,
agree.
I prefer a little bit of that, I don't know, that warm, cozy, kitschy vibe.
And eclectic and weird. Like lean
a
into
little
your weird.
boho.
Yes, boho, yes.
But yeah, it's from my vantage, it's been really interesting to see people, you know, the most unexpected people, the people that you just seem so buttoned up and straight-laced, actually getting into astrology, and not just astrology, but like manifesting and witchcraft. And I think that people don't realize that manifesting is a form of spell work.
Yeah.
And it's
Words are spells, spelling.
Yes. J'adore. Love to see it.
Same page.
Because, you know, manifesting has become, obviously it's really been co-opted by like, you know, life coaching, capitalism, culture.
Yeah.
And, you know, we're manifesting yachts and we're manifesting Gucci and we're manifesting like all the consumerism.
Yeah.
But manifestation is like a really powerful expression of spell work and energy work. And all the girlies, you know, are doing it. All of them, you know, it doesn't matter how witchy or mid they may seem. They're doing it.
Yeah. I've always throughout my life seen my boyfriends like watch me because I'm like, anything's possible. Like I can do this. And they're like, okay. It's very much okay, little girl attitude. And then they see me fucking do it and they're like, wait, how'd you do that? I'm like, oh, now you want to know? Thanks. Welcome to my side, bitch. But it seems like men are more, just everybody, like Corinne said, it's just more open and like leaning in. Also, people love hearing about themselves, and like seeing an astrologer is such a valuable tool because getting the heads up that you need, and it's not going to be biased because you're getting it from another person. Like it's a good tool.
Yeah, and you're not doing like a personality assessment to get there, right? Like, which is when we take those tests and we're sort of like, am I antisocial? Right. Like, and it's like you're going through the list of thinking of all possible permutations of this question. Yeah. And it's not, I don't know, I'm a different Myers-Briggs. Every season, you know,
right? Every day is different. I swear to God.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not like the binary of introvert or extrovert. I think is not.
It's phases, man.
Yes, and it's circumstances and it's situation.
Definitely circumstances. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I mean, there are some people. There are people who I think like really thrive in being in environments where they don't know anyone, and then there are people who thrive in environments where they know everyone, right? And like. Is one introverted and one extroverted? Because technically both would be extroverted, right? If you're getting energy from people.
Yeah.
But like that system doesn't account for all of these different social nuances.
You're right.
That I think are really important, but astrology do.
Which I love. So speaking of, so you got our charts.
I do. I have your charts.
Feels so vulnerable.
I know.
I love this shit.
Naked and afraid.
Yes. It's my MO.
So, I mean... How do you guys want to do this?
Well, how do you usually do like a public, like, how do you do usually like a reading, when you're doing it on a podcast or a...
Well, you know, there's a bunch of ways that we can approach it. Okay. I would love to know, I mean, since both of you are not complete noobs and you know astrology, I would love to know if you have, what you think of your own charts and if you have questions about them or if there's things that are sort of pieces of curiosity. And then we can also do sort of a flyby and talk about, you know, what the architecture is. But I would love to like get in there a little more.
I was like, I feel like it's like I don't know how to like fully read the chart. I understand like my sun, my moon, my rising, and I feel very attached and happy with them. I'm like, I got good ones. I feel like they accurately reflect who I am. I'm very into it because I'm a Pisces rising, which is where my sad girl energy it comes from. Everyone reads me as a very angry person, which is the Aries moon. I go, no. I was like, I'm sad. I was like, you're reading it as anger, but I feel no anger in my heart. I feel a ton of sadness though. And that's what that is. And then, I mean, my whole life, especially nowadays, I've really leaned into it. Like I have another podcast called Without a Country, and it's literally about the pursuit of the truth, which could not be more Libra.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm obsessed with it.
Do you know that you have the same sun and moon as Kamala Harris?
Love.
Yeah.
I love her. So that makes sense.
Our first female president?
And actually, I did know that, but I learned it from you in the Coven meeting. I was like, so I did know that.
Yeah, I mean, it's very cool to see certain, I mean, the full moon chart is really activated right now in this election cycle.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right?
It fucking feels like it.
I mean, Biden stepped down during a full moon.
Right.
Biden, Trump, Harris, all are born under full moons.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, so there's just a lot of full moon energy leading up to election day, which is really interesting. I mean, and again, like we can see astrology in action here, right? Like like if we all start to sort of tune in to when the full moons are going to be, then we can all sort of anticipate when are really big pivots and big changes going to happen leading up to whatever, November, you know? So yeah, so we have, and you know that you're born on a new moon, right?
Oh, no, I didn't know that. I just know my sun and moon, Pisces, and then Aries rising, right? Because we have a lot of similar chart. Like, the only thing we don't have in common is the Libra.
Yeah. No,
similar.
Yeah, it makes sense. And I mean, astrological, if you're using something, I mean, I was using like the pattern app and stuff, but like, I mean, Krystyna and I, based on that, have a very compatible astrology.
Yeah.
Yeah, you do have very compatible astrology. I mean, in a really interesting way, because, and now this is going to be a little bit more esoteric, but Corinne, your rising sign at 14 degrees Pisces brings us into your 12th house.
What does that mean?
Which is
Sorry,
the
I don't know all
area.
the terms yet.
Which is the area that's associated with like past life things and spiritual things.
Well, we had a theory that she had some past life regression thing where we were brothers in a past life. Remember that?
Yes. I totally forgot about that until now.
Yeah.
Yes.
How did you guys meet?
God, looking back at the events, it's so interesting. So I moved to New York City in the middle of college because I wanted to intern at SNL because I wanted to be on SNL. And I was like gung-hoing for that. Like the second I got here, my first internship was with the talent management company she worked at.
It was my first job out of film school.
I had an interview for Lehman Entertainment, which was her company, and CBS. And I was like, this starry-eyed kid from Pennsylvania. So I was like, CBS, duh. Like, and I had a great interview.
Internship she didn't want.
But I went to the wrong building for my interview, which is so unheard of for me. I know exactly where I have to be days before I have to be there. Like, I'm so on top of it. And I was like, how the fuck did I miss this interview? So anyway, I ended up getting that internship. And then, and it was great. And I learned a lot. And then my senior year of college, when I interned at SNL, I asked a writer how to get on the show. He said, do stand-up. My first ever stand-up show was a bringer, which means you have to bring people to get stage time. And I messaged Corinne.
And I actually went, which is unheard of for me. I love saying no to an invitation.
Yeah. And then she was like, do you want to work together afterwards? So it kind of just like happened.
And work together in this capacity, or work together as writing partners?
A comedy duo. Yeah, like we have like a B project.
We did a lot of projects together. We did a bunch of live shows. We had a pretty successful like ongoing monthly show for stand-up at Brooklyn Winery. We would go to open mics together. We built this a little, the podcast a little bit later, but like not
3 years into being a comedy duo. But like I had a pull when I went to Penn State for my first year in college. In the middle of the semester, I was having the time of my life. I was so happy. It was such a euphoric place, Penn State. It was before all the stuff was out with the news about it, so everybody was really happy. And I was just like, this is the best year of my life. And then I got like a download before I even knew what that was. And I was like, God damn it, I have to move to New York. I have to. I don't want to, but I know I have to. And there was just, I didn't even question it. And that was the first time I've ever gotten a pull like that. And so I'm like, ugh, okay. And I like was so sad to leave and so sad to move to New York. I hated it, but I was like, I have to.
Yeah.
And now I know why.
That's interesting. I mean, and I was just sharing about how I had this pull to come back to New York, which is home for me. But even still, it was like, gotta come here in order to meet this partner. And this sounds like a similar sort of.
The pull was, the New York City was the last place I wanted to be, but the pull was so hard that I was like almost shocked that I didn't question it.
Yeah. And now you get the pulls often and you know what they feel like?
Yeah, sometimes. I feel like recently, the year that you first came on the show, I was going through a mental breakdown and trying to hide it, which is like makes a mental breakdown way worse. Just like experiencing CPTSD in the most extreme forms, like waking up screaming, for like a year. So it was, not the best. But now I'm feel happy and excited about life again.
Well, that's wonderful to hear. And it's also interesting because I remember looking at your chart and seeing just, how deeply spiritual you are.
Yeah.
And how, profoundly intense that area is. And, for anyone listening who knows what, some astrology language, Krystyna is not only a Pisces sun, but also North Node in Pisces, conjunct the moon in Pisces.
Shit. North Node in Pisces too.
Venus is in the 12th house. Jupiter is on the ascendant coming from the 12th house. So Pisces and the 12th house, both, individually and collectively are associated with the psychic realm, spirituality, our sort of internal mystical experience, which is great for being an extremely psychic and intuitive person. And it is the worst thing ever when we deny it. It is like truly death
Yeah.
to deny that.
I don't think I've ever
that
denied
truth.
it. Yeah.
And it's good.
I want
You're here.
I didn't realize that I was so spiritual, like astrologically, until probably maybe when you came on the show the first time. I was like, oh shit, that's why I like this stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. I mean, because it's very loud, right? You know, and it beckons us.
Well, I want to talk to dead people eventually.
You would be an amazing medium.
Yeah.
I'm sure you already talk to dead people.
I guess. I don't know. I've done the activity where you hold an object of somebody who's passed away. I did it twice, both with really good friends, one recently. I did it with my friend Donna, and I was like, there's this weird painting with a purple vase, of a painting of flowers in a vase, and it's purple. She was like, shut the fuck up. And she like had this painting that she redid for her grandma. It was a very specific, and I was like, okay. And now I'm realizing the psychic stuff and the mediumship, it's all like, and you've said this, Corinne, the most subtle thing where you think you're making it up, that's the thing.
Yeah.
That's the vibration you go off of.
So how do you receive messages?
They just come in my head.
Do you
It's not
see
a
them?
voice. No, I don't see them. When I do the medium stuff, I see very clearly, but like mind's eye see. Now I understand what that means because I've experienced it. But it's just a knowing. It's like clairsentience, I believe.
That's right. Yeah. I think that it's really liberating to know that there's all of these different clairs, all these different psychic ways that we can receive information. And one of them is just the clairsentience, clairknowing. You have clairvoyance, you have clairaudience.
I was like, I have clairaudience.
You do?
Anytime I get it downloaded, I hear the word.
Oh, that's so helpful.
Do you have a narrator?
It's me. I mean,
It's you?
everything's me, though. It's the most me answer ever. My whole life is me.
Well, yeah, of course. Whose else would it be?
Yeah, I mean, I don't. The voice just sounds like me saying it to myself. But
It's your higher self, probably.
I'm just like, oh, it's just me. Yeah.
I love it. Yeah, I mean, I know someone who's also clairaudient, and there's like a very distinctive narrator who comes in with this voice.
Oh, that's interesting.
Oh, like a wise old man or something.
See, mine
That's
just
so
feels
cool.
like it's just like I know it because there's repetition, so I wouldn't have a thought in repetition. Well, I mean, sometimes I do because I have obsessive compulsive disorder, but it's different. It's like a word in repetition. Like, for instance, I was in a studio space and I just had this, like, it was so loud, I just kept hearing, she's pregnant. I heard that, like, overwhelmingly to the point where I wanted to shout, like, who the fuck is pregnant? I need to start my podcast. And I keep hearing this, and I was trying to pick out who it was because of my bias of who was in the room. I was catastrophizing it, and I thought it was, like, my ex-boyfriend's new girlfriend. And it turned out to be my friend, and my two friends were pregnant together, and I could go, oh, that's great. Love that.
Yeah.
Love that for you guys.
But that's another great example of how, like, we can receive, both can exist. Like, we can be psychic and we can be extremely tuned in, and we're also navigating our own, imposing our narratives on these things,
For
right?
sure.
That's why
that's what I'm working on right now.
Everybody to know that too.
Yeah.
Like, it's so important to like understand that as you dive into this stuff.
Well, I think that might be the next level, right?
Yeah.
That might be where we are all collectively. Because if we know that this work has become much more mainstream over the years, and that everybody has their tarot cards and everyone has like some birth chart app on their phone, then the next step is like, okay, you're a witch, great.
Sweet.
But you're also OCD, or you're also like CPTSD. And you also, and like we also all have these other diagnoses that are really real too. So then how do we get them to coexist, right? And like, not for naught, they are probably connected.
Yeah,
they are.
It's a learning tool ultimately.
Yes.
It seems like all this shit is a learning tool. All these experiences we go through is like, what can I learn about this? About how to love or how to be loved from this?
Right.
The most extreme shit. You're like, okay, there is something, and if you lean into it, it's like, all right, life is a play, and you're watching it, and you can enjoy the downs and ups and downs if you kind of have that. I'm curious about with our charts.
Yes.
Can you gain like timing of phases?
Yes.
Like, where are we currently at?
I feel like timing is the most difficult thing for me to figure out.
Me too.
Spiritually.
Like, I love a heads up, If am I entering a phase of like, I got a heads up. I think you got a heads up, Corinne, and you said to me that I was going to go through something really bad.
Oh
yeah, well, because I got a tarot reading that was absolute shit show, which ended up being the worst year of my life. But then you also had like the worst year of your life at the same time,
Yeah.
which is terrible for a working partnership.
My friends, I was going to ask you guys that. That was one of the questions I was like, as I was looking at your charts and sort of prepping a few things to share with you that I wanted to ask is if you notice that you go through similar things at similar times.
Yeah.
The reason is because, Krystyna, you are a 29-degree Aries rising and you're a 14-degree Corinne Pisces rising. And 29 and 14 of Aries, right, which is sort of, you're the last degree that you could be in Aries. And then you are in Pisces, right? So Pisces moves, or the way that we are tracking astrologically is from Aries to Pisces usually, but Pisces also comes right before Aries. So timing-wise, there is always going to be this sort of, you might feel it first, or I'm sorry, Corinne, you might feel it first with your Pisces, and then you're going to feel it directly thereafter.
Yeah.
And this could be sometimes over the course of years, right? It could be like something is building up in you, and then it kind of passes over to you, or it could be something over the course of a month, right? As the sun, which is a month-long orbit, moves. So it's almost like you guys are passing the torch back and forth to each other.
And we broke up with our really serious boyfriends at the same, like within a month of each other.
That's true.
Too.
But who broke up
that
first?
One, when you were going through your dad's death, and then I was just going through I did not know how to handle myself. It was fucking
Krystyna was having a
awful.
nervous breakdown while my dad was dying.
I was
and
acting like a
God,
toddler.
I was like, universe. I was like, we need
Yeah.
to keep the company. We need to keep the empire. What are we doing
Literally
here?
the worst thing that could. I cannot imagine a worst case scenario.
Yeah.
I cannot imagine a worst case scenario.
Yeah. I mean, it's, but
two
that's,
people
and,
working together.
and it's interesting because that also is a mark of such beautiful compatibility.
I mean, we weren't compatible during that time because I was literally throwing tantrums while she was going through something like monumental.
Well, it's not like we were fighting though. We were just kind of like disconnected.
I couldn't be a
because-
person. I
What
couldn't be
year
there for
was
you.
that? Let me see if I can see
2021?
Yeah, my dad died in 2021. So I mean, basically, my dad became ill in November of 2020. So then through June of 2021 was just like I was completely immersed in that death. And then the year after, but I actually marked 2022 as the worst year of my life so far.
Mine too.
Because it's the first year on the planet without my dad, and I found that like I could cry just thinking about it.
Yeah.
It's so hard.
Yeah. So when we talk about years in astrology, we're often talking about Jupiter because Jupiter is the planet of expansion, and it takes about a year to move through one zodiac sign to the next.
Okay.
So Jupiter and where it is in the sky sort of speaks to the zeitgeist of that moment.
Okay.
Jupiter last year was in Taurus, which was very like Barbie movie, very Barbie movie.
Miss it.
Jupiter is now in Gemini, which is very brat, right? It makes a lot of sense that we have progressed to that.
that does make sense.
Unfortunately, Trump's a Gemini though, so
He
I don't want
is.
him having a fucking brat summer. I want him having a bad summer.
Yeah, I know.
meanie.
I mean, I guess the assassination attempt wasn't.
Is that Brat Summer? Now I have to wear a Band-Aid. Sucks.
Well, have you guys seen how Mark Zuckerberg is trying to win him over? This is probably a conversation for another side, but it's really interesting how, I mean, he thinks that Trump is having a brat summer for sure. And Mark Zuckerberg is wearing like gold chains, and he looks, and he's like, has like a JT circa 1999 hairstyle. I'm not making that. I mean, maybe I hallucinated this because it's been a weird week, but I think this is real, you
That's
guys.
fucking wild.
I'll have to look into that. That's
Yeah,
hilarious.
you will. I mean, maybe for the other podcast.
I was gonna say, I was like, I
crazy.
talked about the astrology surrounding Kamala and the assassination and Joe Biden stepping down on the podcast, and I said, listen, I was like, because my favorite. I follow so many people politically, but it's like actually astrologers are my favorite people to get political tips on because it makes it just
when
like
they're
so
right,
much
it's
more
crazy.
fascinating.
Of course, yeah. I mean, every White House needs to have a good astrologer.
Yes.
Yeah.
I agree.
Do you hear that?
Kamala, baby.
So going back to that time, in 2020 and through 2022, Jupiter was moving through in your chart the last three houses, the 10th house, the 11th house, and the 12th house. We could take a chart and divide it into 4 quadrants, with 3 houses being in each quadrant. And this quadrant that Jupiter was going through is sort of like the final frontier quadrant. for you. And for everyone, right? Those last 3 houses, 10th, 11th, and 12th. It's where we sort of reach legacy, where we sort of really we are in the public eye. We're receiving a lot of acknowledgement and merits and recognition for our achievements. And then there is the cascade from that of, does this even fucking matter? Right? Like,
that was my existential crisis.
Right. Like, why is this important? What is the purpose of this at all?
Yeah.
And when we think about that in relation to the death of a father, right? The father is symbolized in the 10th house. That's the area that is traditionally associated with the dad, right? The 10th house. I mean, astrology is patriarchal too, right? So the area of our chart, the legacy is the dad area. What can you do,
Yeah. Right.
But to me, it's also interesting because, at that time, I would imagine that there was also, it sounds like in 2020, there was a lot of mobility here on your podcast and the way that things were moving, right? But this was also a time where you were reconciling what is my identity and my legacy without this extremely important person in the world, right? And with them going through illness and with ultimately losing them. And both things are true, right? Like everything in spirituality is that this can be an amazing and enormous time for us to figure out who we are and our identity. And it's also a time of loss because when we figure out our identity, we also are shedding and people are leaving and we're collecting something, the wisdom that someone passes to us, right?
Right.
So there is this challenge around that. And during this time, through 2022, that's where Jupiter was in your chart, is it was moving through these spaces. And Krystyna, that timing is also true for you as well.
Damn, doggy.
Because of your cute little compatibility, right? Of your charts having sort of similar timing around things.
Jeez.
So because of that happening in your chart with similar timing, you were on your own sort of up and then descent.
Just crash.
Yeah.
Crash.
It's important, right? It's really important because it's the integration.
Yeah.
On the other side of it, because everything is a season, and you are both not in those seasons anymore. I'm delighted to report.
Like
Is now you have that wisdom, you have that insight, you have that knowingness, and you've been to hell and back, and you can say, I survived, right?
Yeah.
And I also get maybe why I'm supposed to be doing what I'm doing. And I get that there's a value in being able to disseminate this insight and this information and help other people feel more comfortable with their own shit that they're dealing with.
Yeah.
Because to me, it's like, this is why we go through things, right? Is so that we can we can tell these stories so that we don't feel that existential loneliness of being the only person in the whole world who's lost someone or went through a mental breakdown. Like, this is part of life and it's part of living. And if you are blessed enough to have a microphone and a platform, like, please tell people, share that because it helps. It really helps.
What about upcoming timing for us?
So,
Because God damn it, I never want to revisit those years ever again.
I hear you.
They were so awful.
So, a time of money.
Okay.
And a time of community.
Yes. Two things that are really great.
So Corinne, remember, you go through things first, right? So starting with Jupiter moving into Gemini, which happened just a couple of months ago, this past June, end of May or early June, this Jupiter entered your 3rd house, which is about connections. It's about siblings, it's about peers, it's about friendship. And it's also about being able to sort of like meet your people and expand your network. Not in necessarily a way of, I'm like rubbing elbows with the
who's who.
Yeah, exactly. Like maybe you're at the Met Gala, I don't know. But this is more about really
Totally
meeting people who inspire you, right? And like connecting and finding the people who get you, people who are on the same wavelength as you, which is really important timing and really like an integral part of our process. Because in order for us to stay sort of like to know our rhythm, we need to make sure that we still like got it, you know?
Totally.
We need to make sure that we're still relevant. Yes.
Yeah.
And that we haven't just sort of isolated ourselves and like culture has moved in one. Yes.
You evolve.
So it's evolving with people. So this is a really amazing and powerful time. And this year is really about sort of identifying those people. Now, next year for you is about home and family things. So it's sort of like we transition from meeting our people into establishing more of a sense of like, I know where I sit. I know where I belong. I feel a sense of stability and security. And right now, this year, you're sort of going through the process of figuring out, well, where do I want to belong? What is important to me? So we're not necessarily focused on like dropping down the anchor and planting our roots, but we're collecting information that's going to make it easier for you to do that next year. Yes. Okay. And then, so Corinne goes through it and then you go through it next. And right now, this is the timing for you about money, about resources, about investments. Yeah. Really, really important time, if possible, for you to direct resources into things.
Yeah. That's exactly what I'm doing.
Yeah. So that it's not all just like sitting in the bank account.
Yeah.
And
you make it grow.
Going away.
Yeah. Yep.
Going bye-bye.
Oh, spending.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
Right. Because we all know that that's what happens,
it's very
right?
easy to do.
Yes.
Yeah. Is there anything else that you see? Like, what about like love and relationships for us? I'm just curious. Like,
just like, were you thinking about it? Or
no, like, is it in there?
It is. So
I'm always
Krystyna,
so curious.
What has been going on with love and relationships in general for you?
For me?
Yeah.
It's been interesting. I'm in a relationship with somebody that's so special to me that I've never adored a partner in this way. And he's also like a star. Like he's very special. He's a special person. And so that's really been nice. But I'm moving in with him.
Oh, wow.
And I'm nervous about that. I don't necessarily want to... There's a part of me that's, no, don't do it. But it's going to be saving money, and it's going to be, he lives a block away from me, so it's not going to be a huge change. And I'm going to put all my stuff in a storage unit, and I'm going to actually be able to save money and have like very few of my things in the place I live, which I'm actually really looking forward to, because I kind of just want to be, like I try to start every day as if I'm new here, you know, and try to look at everything through this fresh lens. I'm pretty good at that lately. So yeah, that's what's happening with me. But like we love each other so much, and I really adore the love that we have. So
when did that relationship start?
Ooh, it's 5 years ago, and it was pretty toxic. Pretty toxic. If I wrote into our own show, I would call myself a dumb bitch.
So what was the change?
You know, I followed my own advice, and I'm like, I have this crazy connection with this person, but he just doesn't want any part of it. And he's told me that to my face, and I'm out here going, okay. But I'm like, if you actually think this is meant to be, Krystyna, in the way that you do, you psycho little chick, then let it go. And if it's going to come back, it will. Because guess what? Whatever's the highest good for you will happen. And I let it go, and it came back, and we're amazing. So it was just kind of a crazy fluke thing.
So, you know, what's interesting is that the eclipses have been really activating both of your charts, but in particular, your chart relating to relationships. Yeah. Which started not this past fall. I guess it would have been fall 2023.
Yeah. I mean, in a span of 3 months, I blocked on my cell phone my mother, my father, my best friend at the time, and my ex-partner of 7 years. So like the way that I got rid of people, whew. And I'm like, oh, I see all these Pisces memes of like, Pisces will pretend like they ain't never known you before. Like you've never met, and you could have been like married to them. And I'm like, oh shit, okay. So that's like
I feel like so you can't trust some of those memes too, because they'll reuse the same exact thing for Libra. I don't even know that's a trait of
damn.
Yeah.
Some of these the meme accounts are charlatans.
They are, but
like
you can
house.
always trust my memes.
Yes, no,
yes.
This is not your memes.
You can.
We love your memes.
We love your memes.
My memes are channeled.
But yeah, so I cleaned house pretty extremely.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see, because this eclipse series on the Aries Libra axis is finishing up this upcoming fall.
Okay.
And because it's been activating the areas of your chart associated with identity and also partnerships and relationships, this sort of is going to demarcate a big change within, what has happened, what has transformed is going to sort of quiet and just exist now. It's not going to be the same sort of like moving and shaking. Because now the eclipses are moving to Virgo and Pisces, which means they're going to be activating, Corinne, your identity and relationship area. So this is one of the few cases because the nodes move backwards. So they're unlike the other timing where you're first.
Right.
So what's been going on in relationships for you?
Interesting how much I can divulge on air. I basically gave up dating about almost a year to go to a day because I was just like, it's very easy for me to acquire a boyfriend, but I often have boyfriends that I don't really like. It was almost like a hobby for me.
Yeah, of course.
Like I don't drink, I don't do drugs. I'm like, people always say like, what do you do in your free time? And I realize I'm like, oh, I have boyfriends in my free time.
Oh my God, my Libra queen.
Literally what I do. And, but I still for the past, God, at this point, since 2021, have had, not in this moment, but for a while, like a pretty deep attachment that was on and off with an ex. So, but if you want to talk about chaotic, yeah.
Is it a similar sort of story to the on and off?
Mine was on and off and it was chaotic.
Not as toxic, but
jealous.
But I'm also just a lot. I also think that
you have firm boundaries.
We also have a gender roles reversed, right? So in a lot of my relationships, I'm playing the role of the masculine energy, whereas Krystyna's always the feminine energy.
Yeah.
But even in this relationship, I'm the masculine energy.
Got it.
But that speaks true and my relationships are all heterosexual, but.
So do you think that, I'm not going to even press you on it because here's the thing with the eclipses is that they take us for a fucking ride.
Yeah.
We really don't know
and I've
how
been taken,
they are going to.
Positive or negative, like either way?
I'm an optimist at heart. So, and I think that if you're going to do this work, you fucking better be.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
So yes,
Clean.
and I do think that in my deepest truth, I really think that we live in a benevolent world where the universe does want what is for the highest good for us.
Yeah.
Perhaps it's chuggy, but it's my chuggy.
Yeah.
It's my truth on it.
Even when bad shit happens, that's what makes me survive it. I'm like, well, something's going to unfold after this and the new blossom is going to be so much happier than we are right now.
Yes. And, even when there is a shedding involved, and a big change that can be really difficult up front, it is ultimately helping us get back on track and back to what we truly want and what we truly need, right?
Yeah.
So this is going to be, these eclipses are going to be really impactful for you relating to relationships. So I would imagine that there's going to be lots of big new transformations coming up as soon as September.
Oh, so that means like meeting somebody or like establishing a really beautiful connection, you're saying?
Yeah.
That was what I love, that Krystyna interpretation of that.
Yeah. What
because
do you
it's
think
so
it means?
funny because I actually do try to, for who I am, it's interesting because I always do look at things like, ooh, something exciting is going to happen. I always think like I'm going to be I'm world famous tomorrow. And what I've found lately spiritually is that it's like, the good things that will happen are really tiny, and then the bad things are like the level of catastrophe that I would have catastrophized.
Damn, that's not fun.
No.
More examples than losing your dad, though?
Also after that, I was like mourning a really big breakup. And it's also not my dad died. My childhood best friend died in the past 5 years.
Yeah.
A guy I was dating that I saw really serious potential with. Like, so someone not a hobbyist boyfriend, like someone who I thought could be like a great love, died. And he felt the same way too, because like one of his last Instagram posts was literally like posting about a date we were going on. Who the fuck does that?
When
That's
I
not
met
normal.
this guy, I was like, oh, Corinne, I just met your soulmate. Like, that's how powerful it was to me.
And I had always said like, I had been saying for years, I want to date a chef. And this guy was literally a very high level chef.
And fun as Fuck. R.I.P. baby. Miss ya.
No, recently I would say like in like April, May, there was something I was like really like attached to that I was just gonna give up on in totality. Just gonna walk away, and I was ready and I was fine with it. Because like the grief from my dad's death, I think was a little attached to it, right? And then I fucking did a tarot read for myself. And literally the card was like, I don't remember which card, but basically like it was like a card that says, you've put too much work into this now, don't give up. Like that's the card.
Oh shit.
And so I go, fuck. So I like met up with that person like that night, and I was like, and then we like talked for 4 hours. We're like, and then it was all good. It seems like it was going one way, and then completely blindsided and done like in May.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's. Well, I'm curious what the tarot card was that you pulled, right?
God, I wish. I take a lot of pictures and I do a lot of notes on it. But like literally, I was also using, because I'm not so good that I memorize everything, but I was using Rachel True's deck. So I'm reading with her manual along with it. And like literally a part of the interpretation was she wrote out like, you have put too much work into this, now don't turn back now. I mean, it was so clear, and I know we're supposed to be reading this as like what part of it resonates with us. And sometimes I'll do a tarot read and I'm spread for myself and I go, I'm not sure. But this is one of those ones where like, it is so clear to me what this means right now.
So then what do you think?
And my spreads on that particular relationship had been very clear and consistently accurate.
So what do you interpret it as? Because if the message said, don't give up, you had this wonderful experience and then, it like dropped off.
Well,
like to me, there is still something there. Like it's not a misread. It's just that maybe this was a story that that has a different outcome than you were anticipating.
There is. I agree with you. I think there's something karmic there, but there's a part of the human, this realm version of me that was like, I feel like it's a slap in the face that I don't think I can come back from.
That's
just like my own boundaries.
Is that why you stopped dating?
We never were dating. Well, I mean, not in this period. We weren't dating. Is that why we stopped dating? No. But it's why we stopped talking.
But you have stopped dating for a year, right?
Yes.
So was that this past May?
Yes.
So it is interesting timing, right? Because if you had made a sort of a conscious decision last year to say like, I'm not doing this anymore.
Yeah.
But then I'm going to make room for this kind of interaction. And obviously I don't know the nuances of all of this.
Yeah.
But it does feel like there is sort of combating energies around that, right?
Yeah.
Like there's part of you that's like, I'm sort of, taking a break from all of this. And then there's another part of you that's like, let's open the door just a little,
well,
right?
To me, it's hobby dating versus true soulmate connection. So this is something that I feel like has the potential for a true soulmate connection that I have a history of with this person. The other shit was just me finding hot dudes.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, but it's all very full moon chart, right? I mean, a full moon chart is obsessed with opposites. It's obsessed with things being sort of like being this or that, or there be some sort of duality to them, or some sort of like impossible circumstance that can't quite get figured out, right? Yeah. Because that's what a full moon is. You have the sun and the moon kind of like doing a face-off in the sky where the sun is like, I'm bright. And the moon's like, actually, bitch, today I'm bright too, right?
Yes.
So it's two energies that are coming in full force to say, I'm right. So it's interesting that within the same time period that you're like, I'm taking a break, that there's like, but I'm still keeping space for this.
Right.
Because to me, all of that needs to be integrated, right? All of that is like, there's dating, there's hooking up, there's dating for sport, there's dating hot people, there's dating soulmates. But I think that bringing all of that together is where the soul sort of wants to go, right? Because ultimately if you find yourself in like a long-term thing with a real one, you have to also lay to rest. I mean, unless you don't, right? Unless the conditions of the relationship are one that you can continue to explore other types of dating. But at least in a monogamous relationship, you're going to have to integrate the part of you that is dating for sport,
Right.
So it is sort of looking at it as one holistic experience rather than this version of you or that version of you.
Right.
So it's interesting to
baby.
think of like, you know, when you said I'm not going to date in this way anymore, but I'm going to date in this other way, if those were really truly threaded, you know? And I would probably guess that there's still something that needs to be dug out around both of them, you know?
That's for sure. Something does need to be dug out.
Digging out the carcasses.
Dig it out.
What about career stuff? Were you going to be famous?
Aren't you guys already famous?
But I want more.
More, please.
Well, only because like I've really gotten in touch with like, why do I do what I do? Why do I do the art that I do? And I think about guys we fucked and stand up and all of it. I'm like, it's to fucking make everybody have a better time here. And that I really believe in that. And so my desire to have a wider audience, like I feel like it comes from that place because so many people are nuts.
Yeah. No, I mean, as I said before,
Comedy's
like
the quickest way to like call people out on their bullshit.
Yeah, and if you have a microphone and you're blessed to be able to have a platform, like that's a calling for a reason.
Yeah.
Right? It's really important. So when we talk about career stuff that is inherent in your chart, we'll often look at a placement called the midheaven, which is the top of your chart. If you're looking at a chart, it would be the 12 o'clock position.
Okay.
And that isn't exclusively career. And I think that often in our late stage capital world, like we conflate legacy and career, but then sometimes they are very, you know, they do coexist, especially if you're an artist or you're an entertainer and you're doing something that is going to be your legacy.
Yeah.
But it also happens to be your livelihood. So both of you, this is one place where you are not twinsies. You both have different midheavens. So Krystyna, your midheaven is in Capricorn.
Okay.
And Capricorn is the sign it's an earth sign. It's associated with hard work and stability and like big, epic, success, right?
Oh,
like big,
yeah.
like scaling that mountain. Yeah.
White Oprah, baby. Let's go.
It's it's climbing to the top, which is really auspicious for having a really notable legacy career.
Yeah.
But I'm going to like emphasize the word legacy here because Capricorn is also a very old man.
Ew.
I know. The symbol of Capricorn is actually an old man with a cane.
Oh, that's
Sorry.
a bummer.
Yeah, but I'm a Capricorn rising, so
Okay.
I think it's cute.
Yeah.
I have daddy
He's a cute
issues.
old
It's fine. But
So what does that mean?
It means that it's not supposed to be overnight. You know?
Right.
It means that
it hasn't.
I feel like when you're in your mid to late 30s, that it can't be.
Yeah. It's no chance.
But that's maybe the point, right?
Right.
Yeah.
But that's not true also.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, the way that
Yeah.
culture is right now, like you could be
one
hawk
fucking
to
viral
ya,
video.
girl,
I know.
right?
It's like
Yeah.
you got to go viral one time.
I'd rather not be famous.
Yeah, the viral
Than
thing,
hop
I don't
to
like.
ya,
I don't
girl.
like that trajectory of going viral because it's usually not for something good. It's usually not for something sustainable. Like it's not.
Right,
Except
and that
the pole
word's
vaulter at the Olympics whose
sustainable.
dick made him lose. Like that's about it. Like,
Yeah.
that's the only good one.
Yeah, that career is soaring.
He went viral and it's going well for him.
Yeah, forevermore.
Yes.
No doubt about that.
Yeah.
You know, I think that like when you're chipping away at something, but
Yeah.
another thing I want to call out, you know, to your Capricorn midheaven from my Capricorn rising is that wherever Capricorn is in our chart, we always have a chip on our shoulder. We always feel like, why does it have to be so fucking hard? You know, like why I've been putting in the time, I've been putting in the work. Like, why is this taking so long? Right?
Yeah.
Capricorn is longevity. In a way, it's like the strong Capricorn, it speaks to like a really strong, very long life, right? Because I got to get to the old man, right? So
Right.
you have to reach that level of your own journey to access it. But there also is a frustration, an impatience, just
Very
a
patient.
chronic feeling of like, why is it happening for other people and it's not happening for me? And I don't have a remedy to that other than knowing it.
Yeah, I mean, whenever those thoughts come up, I step in right away, and I'm like, no, we're gonna be happy for other people. Like I course correct immediately because I don't want that energy.
Yes.
I don't ever want to be jealous of somebody. I want to be happy for them. But of course, jealousy. I'm a person, so jealousy is gonna come up. But then when it does, go whoa, break this down real quick and de-thread.
Yes.
'Cause we're not having that.
Right. And jealousy is a great a great insight, right?
Totally.
It's like, and if you can really look at it, you can say like, what is it that this person has that
it's
I want?
It's a gift. Yeah.
Right.
I look at it as a gift now, which is excellent way for me.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so on one hand, this speaks to, I mean, also I would say Capricorn midheaven speaks to really being able to build like business, you know, like enterprise.
Okay.
So this is also not just about you and your fame, your success, your sort of visibility, but it's about what you create around you, you know?
Cool.
And also like something I've been thinking about a lot, you know, maybe it's sitting in hospice for 7 days or something. I don't know.
That'll change your thoughts.
Yeah, right. Is like what happens if as creators, we find ourselves in a situation where we can't create anymore, right?
Yeah.
Scary.
Yeah.
Nightmare thought.
That's why I got so into witchcraft again. Because I stopped. I lost the ability to create like right after my dad died. And I go, well, I got to do something. And to me, like, you know, tarot and astrology and stuff, it feels like creative but it's already been like, it's already been created for me and I just have to kind of play along, you know?
Right.
But it also tapped into childhood for me because I've been practicing Wicca since I was like 12, whenever the craft came out.
Yeah,
I got into it.
We love a 90s bitch.
I got into it.
Yeah.
But unlike everyone else, I never left.
Yes.
I stayed.
Yes, good.
But yeah, but it really like ignited and I like got like, I've always had an altar, but I like really kind of like committed to it and recommitted to it.
Gord, I with that hand gesture, I would love to see this altar.
That's great.
My altar's great. And then, but it's in like my main room and sometimes people like put like a cup on it and I
Ew.
fucking lose my mind.
Maybe it's an offering.
That's a nice way to look at it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A little sip. So yeah, it's about building things that are going to be able to like run independently from your creative ventures too.
Yeah.
You know?
Cool. I mean,
so,
I have
and
a
that
lot of ideas
also,
for
I mean, that also, this is really good timing for it that we were talking about like the money things, right?
Yeah.
So
I want to make art that changes the world for the rest of my life. Well, like really changes it. Like really change. Like
sounds
the way
kinda
this
scary.
podcast
I love it.
does.
Yeah.
No, the way this podcast is like making people like talk about stuff.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my God, this is the best feeling ever. And I only want this feeling.
yes. Yeah.
You know?
So then what other kinds of institutions perhaps could you create that support that?
Yeah. Oh, I already got a lot of them.
Well,
in my
that's
head.
move towards those.
Okay.
And then your midheaven is in Sagittarius, Corinne.
Mm-hmm.
So your midheaven is drawn to really like the adventure of it all. It's the exploration. I mean, I know touring with this is really important to you.
Mm-hmm.
Like being actually out on the road, meeting people, connecting, sort of having those sort of interactions and being able to build and scale on that is really, really meaningful because part of what your legacy here is philosophy. It's cultural. It's changing and expanding the way that people are thinking about things, which obviously like there is a beautiful synchronicity and flow between both of your pursuits.
Yeah.
But it's almost like Corinne has Corinne is like really about sort of thinking outside of the box and doing things in these really, I mean, it makes sense that Corinne, you approach Krystyna, right? Like you were like, let's do something together. And then Krystyna can be like, let's box it up like this. Like, let's package it, right? And that makes sense for how you guys collaborate.
Right.
But you sort of expanding your horizons is really, really part of your legacy. And also you pushing back on people and things is really important.
Do that since jump.
Yeah.
Anything like scary we have to be on the lookout for?
I would never tell you. Never in a million years.
I love a heads up. Honestly, like if I'm going to meet somebody, like if I'm about to like work with somebody in any capacity and they're an absolute asshole, if I learn that naturally, I don't like the person. But if somebody gives me a heads up, not only will I learn to love and appreciate and be curious about the person, but we'll get along thick as thieves. Like a heads up for me, especially when stuff is bad, is like, it's so helpful.
Well, I feel like you could do a tarot, you could do a spread on them without like, you know, because it's like smaller. It's almost like smaller scale. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I do for like when I meet someone, I go, what's the fuck is this person about?
Yeah.
I wish I guess I technically did have a heads up about like the breakdown period, but I wish if I knew like, oh, you're going to lose your mind, then I would have allowed myself to and been gentle and not had that added layer of difficulty of fighting against it as you do it.
Right. The shame of.
Yeah. So much shame. And shame is so ugly and it makes you behave so nasty.
Yeah. Yeah. It is. It's such an unpleasant human experience.
Yeah.
I mean, in terms of like bad things, I mean, I really not. I think that you guys have kind of gone through the worst of it.
That's so exciting.
I really hope so. Because I mean, like, I don't really, not to be dramatic, but I don't really remember the last time a good thing happened.
Really?
Not real. Yeah. I mean, like little good days here and there, but I mean, like, I can count them on my fingers and toes. In the good days I've had, like the truly good days in the past 10 years. Is there something that you are waiting for, a specific thing to happen? I'm not waiting. I'm like, I've put a lot of work into a lot of things, so I'm not waiting. I mean, I literally owned my dad's store for 3 years. Like, I've done things. A lot of the work I feel like has been, I feel like I've had a lot of it like internal progress, but not a lot of external progress. Like I feel good. Like I feel very, like a lot have, movement. I feel like I look good. Because a lot of it was like health related stuff that I was dealing with for a long time that was really weighing me down. I'm not waiting for something. I'm definitely impatient, as I always am, for like, do I have a soulmate, or like, do I need to make space in my life for a romantic partner or not? Like, and at a certain point, it's just like, you know, like, I'm like, am I gonna have, because either is fine with me. I just have to like, I'm like, all right, well, at a certain point, like, can I move to another place, you know, like things like that, you know? It's
what
like,
does it say in the stars, ALIZA?
It feels,
you can and you maybe should move to another place.
Yeah.
And I mean, but I also like want you guys to always have your union. So I don't want to say that and fuck it all up.
Right,
but,
right.
I mean, I think that would be really wonderful for your chart. And
Like in the woods?
is that where you want to move?
no. I mean, one day, yes. But no, I think like right now I think I've truly perfected being alone. And I think like when we look at, especially doing this podcast, like where are the areas that I need to learn and where do I think I could experience the most growth? I do think, unfortunately, it would be being around other people and being, you know, or being in a relationship is where the growth would need to take place. Because I feel like kind of all the growth that I need at this point, I've already achieved. I've spent so much really amazing time alone. I love being alone, but now it feels stagnant.
Right. I think you have your answer.
Yeah.
I think that,
but like relationships seem to actively not be working on purpose. Like even like little things, it seems like, that's why like, I'm like, it seems like it's not.
The universe is telling you like,
it seems like the universe is like, no.
Maybe the universe is no to what you think.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, it's multiple things. I mean, it's not just one yeah.
But I'm sure that if we really went in and looked at these dynamics, I don't think it would take us long to figure out why they're no's. I would guess, you know, at least in the work that I've done in the years, to me, it speaks as it's usually very clear to me why something isn't working, you know, and you know, one of the reasons I'm good at what I do is because I'm really good at pattern recognition, right?
Yeah.
So
Very
if
helpful.
I can see, you know, more objectively than you can, because you're in it, sort of like what's the consistent thing that's happening here, even if the people are different, even if the storylines are different.
Right.
And often it doesn't even have to do with them, it has to do with you, right? It has to do with you and the way that you're sort of coming into it, or the way, or your expectations around it, or your lack of expectations around it, or not being as upfront, or being too upfront, or some combination of all of it, right?
Right.
I don't think we could ever be too upfront, but it's,
Agreed.
yeah, I mean, that's obviously a very key element of dating. But also maybe it's not being upfront enough with yourself, right? We have to really be we have to be truly aware of what we are saying and how that supports what we truly want. And I know with a full moon chart, sometimes that's not as easy as it is, you know, theoretically, right? Especially if we're afraid of getting hurt. And like I feel like I have a pain in me that is, even in having been in this relationship with now my husband and have a daughter with him for as long as I have, like I know the feeling of being sort of chronically unlovable, and I can hold that very close still, because it defined still the majority of my life, right? Like a rejection wound that began so young, that then just I continued to see manifest over and over and over. And it was this one dude who changed it. And if I hadn't met this one dude, that would still be my truth. It wasn't.
Relationships really can get you out of pattern. Like the right relationship can really make your pattern, but like just your life can be transformed.
Right. I mean, it wasn't like I had a good track record.
Right.
I was a mess. And in fact, I was actually the worst that I had ever been right as I was meeting him.
Damn.
So it wasn't.
Crazy how that happens.
Yes. It wasn't like I was healed.
Yeah.
I was Humpty Dumpty.
Actively bleeding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I would
all over
say,
the place.
But what if you find yourself to be chronically lovable?
Beautiful.
But like, yeah, I don't know. It was interesting. Something you said before, like very early in the conversation, really made me think that, like, you know, we talk about patterns and then they, you know, come to be true or something. I really think that's true, and that's my theory for like strong women, right? So societally, we have just believed this conversation that strong women are are going to spend a lot of their life single, or many of them are going to spend their lives single because like men can't rise to the occasion or whatever. And while I observe that happening, I don't think that has to be true for me. And I like push back on that I don't accept that answer. Like, I just don't accept it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even hear that statement.
Yeah.
I don't even think that statement should have merit. Like, I think that statement is already something that is rooted in very outdated patriarchal
For sure.
language, you know?
Yeah. But you see it play out too many times, especially being a woman in comedy, where there's just like at a certain level, like these women reach a status where it feels like they are partnerable. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and certainly like we all have our burger storylines a la Sex and the City, you know,
God,
like
yes.
which is truly the worst. Like, to me, of all the storylines, nothing is
It's hard to
scarier.
watch Ron Livingston in anything because of that.
Yeah.
I watched Loudermilk and I was like, but why did you believe the post?
You're like, how could you? You
just roll in on your motorcycle and then you waltz off out of her life.
And he's so handsome. I do love him.
So handsome.
I know. So, I mean, we all, that's like a deep truth,
Yeah.
right? It's a deep archetype
Sure.
that we get.
Yeah.
But we can also choose, I believe, to not call in burger.
Yeah.
Right? We have
would be
choice.
preferable.
No, and I don't. Yeah.
No burgers for us.
No burgers,
Yeah.
veggies here,
Yes.
please.
Yes.
So I think that I think that if that is something that you know, I mean, from what I've heard you say is you've said that like the last piece of this puzzle for you is about unlocking this relationship component. Am I meant to be single and be on my own? I can do it, but am I supposed to be? And if you have that question, then the answer is that you're not.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
You should and you deserve to
psychic
have,
prediction as well.
yes, you to have a partnership
Yeah.
that is meaningful to you, that feels like
It moves mountains.
that moves mountains, that you can travel with, that you can explore with, that you can really be that you can manifest with.
Sure.
And I think that
two powerful people together, there's nothing like it.
there's nothing like it. And I think that there is, if there's resistance around it, it might just be this sort of, you know, remember that you are the full moon Libra Aries, right? It's like, how do you partner while also maintaining your identity? And is your identity, that's the Aries moon, really meant for partnership? Is it really meant to be in alignment? Or am I supposed to be sort of moving through this space as a sovereign agent, right?
Well, I mean, because I question that a lot because, like, I mean, like, I'll watch a drama series where someone is like a wife and a mother, and I'll like cry and go, I don't want to do that. So that to me,
Well, which
feels like a little pushback.
Which part of it, though?
But it might be the dynamics that you are witnessing play out.
It's it's the traditional
story.
dynamics. But I feel like so many people, so many men, like that's what they're. I just unfortunately, as I get older, you go, oh, almost everyone I meet is like looking for that dynamic, and like the dynamic I am bringing is also masculine. It's also breadwinner. It's also achieving. It's like I don't need to make dinner. We can just buy it because I worked so hard, so I have the money to do that now. So I don't have to cry over a crock pot, and I don't have any interest in cooking.
Oh yeah, neither do I though.
Yeah.
I mean, no, it's never going to happen in this lifetime.
Yeah, I don't get joy out of like providing for someone I love in that way. I provide a lot for people I love, but that's not what you're coming to me for. When you're coming to me for like a pep talk, to feel like you can take over the world. I've had boyfriends literally tell me that I gave them confidence. I mean, I think that's a better gift than
a sandwich.
Yeah. Not better, but just like that's going to be better for me. And I make a great sandwich. I mean, I love eating, but for sandwiches. Me, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like you, even in hearing you, it's a really beautiful experience because I hear you go back and forth as to like this is take it or leave it. This is who I am. Like fucking deal with it.
Yeah.
But I also am just a little baby, right? Like
I want a magical fucking ride.
Yeah.
And I think anyone who like has dated me, seriously and knows the real me thinks that I'm like a sweetie.
You are a sweetie.
Yeah.
You're a tough sweetie.
Yeah.
Which is really like lovable and perfect and great for a relationship. Mm-hmm. And just because you don't maybe want babies or maybe want to make like a steak dinner on a Tuesday night doesn't mean that you are not going to find someone who's like your perfect vibe.
Right.
I mean, I think that there's no question, but I also will invite you to consider how many no's you're saying, when it comes to just that like working with the universe bit on things.
Yeah. What do you mean how many no's I'm saying?
Well, let me give you an example.
Yeah.
In one of my books, I talk about manifesting and where it gets a little clunky. Mm-hmm. And I give this example because I use this metaphor of manifesting like it's a restaurant, right? And you place your orders with the waiter, and then they take them back to the kitchen. And then in the kitchen is the astral realm. So that's where they're whipping it all up.
Yeah.
You don't see it, but you know that it's in process. And then in some time, the server brings it back and then like, voila, you have it, right? Mm-hmm. But if you tell the server, I don't eat eggs, I don't want it too spicy, I'm allergic to all of these things, I hate this, then the server, when they take it back to the kitchen, is going to be so trepidatious about putting in your order that you're going to end up with this like bland, gross dish that you didn't even really want because there was so much more emphasis on what isn't for you than what is for you.
Yeah.
And it's not to say that we can't make modifications in our manifestation kitchen. Of course we can. Like, it's a welcoming, inclusive environment. Mm-hmm. But we also have to we have to make sure that when we're putting in our orders with the server, that we're doing so in a way that is very clear that we do want something delicious, and we want something that is going to be vibrant and tasty and looks as appetizing when it arrives as it does on the menu, right? We want to make sure that we're not overloading with like the negatives.
Specification. Oh, okay. Yeah.
Because then we're not going to get something that's yummy, or it's going to get confusing and the server is going to keep coming back and be like, did you say that you were sesame free, gluten free? You know what I mean? Like we don't want to complicate it.
I totally get what you're saying. I actually rectified that a couple of years ago. I totally understand what you're saying, but yeah, it's more, I think I was more caught up on like doing the right thing, like not wasting any more time dating if I am my most powerful self alone. I guess that was it. It wasn't like, I'm always open to like soulmate, whatever. And then the hobby dating was like wasting, that was like, I just had to get rid of that because I was like wasting my time and my energy.
Yeah. I mean, that sounds like fun.
It was.
And also destructive.
It was super fun for a while.
Yeah. So it sounds like you're getting closer and closer to your truth though.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's just a certain point, like, some things, TikTok.
Yeah.
A tickety talk.
So
but like that's life. Right?
Yeah.
It's life is moving always, and we're always sort of reconciling like the timing bit of things. And recognizing where things are in or out of our control. And being as true to ourselves as possible is really the only thing that we have control over.
Right.
Yeah.
Is like not doing things that set us back or fuck it up for unnecessarily. Right? And like certainly if your truth is that you would like to explore what it feels like to have a true partner, then wasting time on people that are not going to be able to provide that is
for sure
is silly. Seats, but like also fine. It's also like no issue, no problem, but like not, it's not getting you closer to where you want to go. It's it's going to derail more than it's going to. However, even as I'm saying that, like sometimes we need to go through that in order to get really fucking clear on what we want, you know?
Some of it was I was going back to old people and then just like finalizing, closing the door.
I think that's
them.
really powerful.
And I make it basically in my mind, I was like, we're gonna create space so that there's no doubt, there's no one looming in the shadows who it could be. That's also like a little bit like indecisive Libra, but
no, I think that that's very powerful. I mean, I think that if those people had been sort of orbiting as a what if, then getting clarity on them, including this person who is, you know, that you pulled the tarot card for, and then it sort of like, you know, like just fell flat.
More than that, I would say a deep betrayal, but sure.
Ooh,
deep betrayal. Okay, wow.
That's in the stars.
But like, yeah, that's why I feel like it's karmic. But yeah, no, I mean, and I blocked so many of these additional men. Like, I mean, I blocked so many men on my phone in the past year.
So to me, it really sounds like you're prepping.
Oh, I am. Yeah, because I go, well, if there's like, I need to create, to me, I was like creating like a home and a space like for some, like almost like, you know, like you can enter if you're here.
If you're there.
Yeah. I think that these eclipses are going to be everything for you.
All right. Exciting.
Yeah. So they're starting in September.
Which is my power month.
Oh, yes.
Of course it is. Tank.
I'll tell you something off air that really will be interesting. But yeah.
I think that these eclipses are going to be really transformative for you. This Virgo and Pisces series.
I hope so, because I feel so stagnant right now, and I do not like that.
Yeah,
me too. Gross.
I almost miss the deep depression at this point.
Right, because you're feeling something.
Right.
I understand that.
Well, one additional question. I know it's late. Sorry. But hopping timelines? What are your thoughts on that? Like the theory of hopping timelines. This was introduced to me recently, having to do with something that we just spoke about astrologically. Like if someone is like existing on a lower frequency, or if all of a sudden their vibration drops, do you believe in like hopping a timeline?
Can we define hopping a timeline?
Can we? Like it's like, so it's like
No.
you were set up to do something, like your fate was like aligned, and then because your vibration got low, it's like almost like you have another pathway that you can go on.
It's like
in
you
low
went down
vibration.
a level in Candyland. You know when you go backwards on the ladders in Candyland?
Oh, I get it now.
Yeah.
That's helpful. Thank you. But it's a bad thing or it's a good thing when you can go up or down?
You can go up or
Either
down.
way,
so in this instance, it's like if you were kind of moving along the same timeline with someone else, but then their frequency drops, and this could be mental health, substance abuse, etc. And then they start on this other journey that was not the way.
Well, you know, I would say that the red flag that I have about it is the frequency component of it. Mm-hmm. Because I personally believe that we're always, you know, our frequency is not, you know, how do I want to say this? Like attributing shame to mental health things and thinking of that as a lower frequency or a lower vibration, or like addiction as a lower vibration, I don't think is like the way to astrologically approach it, because astrologically everything is really about the lesson,
right,
and learning from it, and experiencing
So it's
it.
what you make of it?
Yes.
Okay.
And it's not denying these truths of our experience and our narrative, but figuring out how to move through them and what they mean to us and why they are significant. Now, I do have a really close friend who thinks that she sort of fell out of the path that she was supposed to be on.
Interesting.
And has found herself on another trajectory. And when I look at her chart astrologically, what I see is that she just went through hell astrologically. And it's not so much that she is not on the right path, but her path was moving in a direction that she expected it would stay on. And then all of these Plutonian transits came through and just like knocked the wind out of her.
Oh, poor girl.
Which sucks, but is also supposed to be, you know?
Right.
And it's unfortunately like nobody wants to be like God's strongest warrior, right? But like
no more lessons.
But some charts and some people
came here to do that.
Yes. Yeah. And it sucks, if you are one of them.
Yeah, that does suck.
But it is also, it's the journey. And hopefully we share those lessons and that insight and we build community around it.
Yeah.
So that we don't feel alone and others don't feel alone as they navigate it.
Right.
But as it relates to hopping timelines, I feel like we are moving as we're meant to move.
Right. No, it's like just a new concept that was recently presented to me, I would say in the past like 2 months. And I was having a bit of a hard time grasping it because there's still a big logical part of me that is like constantly at odds with spirituality.
The most full moon baby ever.
Yeah. And yeah, I agree with you on the mental health and not that it's bad, but it's like when it's like acknowledging that you have a mental health issue and then like going out of your way not to do anything for yourself.
Yeah.
That kind of a thing.
Yeah. I mean, I think like it's very interesting how a lot of spiritual and new age language gets so quickly co-opted by, I don't know, the alt-right.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that too.
And like, I think I'm a little bit shell-shocked after 2020 and suddenly seeing that many of the people that I had on my podcast previously had gone 5D, which meant that they didn't think COVID was real. And then it meant that they weren't getting vaccinated. And then it meant that they were voting for Trump. Like it was like, it was really cascaded so quickly.
Yeah.
So I'm so always like, what does it mean to be lower vibration? Does it mean that you received a vaccination?
Right.
Right.
Does it mean that you like, take antibiotics occasionally when you need to?
Right.
And so I'm always apprehensive about a new spirit. I mean, I'm even apprehensive about human design because I'm like, who made this? Right? Like, where did this come from? And people love it. And it doesn't seem that scary.
Yeah.
But it's something that I feel so wary of. And I mean, and this is how...
I'm wary of everything, yeah.
Yeah. And this is how it does happen, right? Like this is how you get your best Netflix documentaries on cults. That someone starts talking about hopping timelines and the next thing you know, everyone's in Iowa, like leaving their families behind.
Right. Walking into a cave.
Right.
What happens.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think that I'm sure that hopping timelines is innocent and innocuous. And I'm also sure that there are people who are telling you that you can do it for $555 if you download this course today.
Yeah, I mean, it's just some things are just like hard for me to wrap my mind around. And then when I'm like researching it and I go, there's nothing on like outside of a medium.com post about this, I go, I'm going to need more information.
Yeah, I mean, I have a rule, which I've always abided by, which is that I won't do a reading in a desperate situation.
That's wise.
Yeah.
That's wise rule.
And so when I used to do one-on-one sessions, people could only book 3 months in advance. Not only because of my schedule, but because if someone was urgently looking to speak with an astrologer, I was not the one for them.
You're not coming from
exactly.
right place automatically.
Like if you really want a session, sit with it, think about it, make an investment in your future, not because you have this like knee-jerk reaction to get some insight.
Right.
Because we're not going to be, I mean, talk about vibrations and frequencies, like that sort of manic energy does not bode well for spirituality. However, people feed on that, right?
Do they?
Especially on the internet.
Consumerism is why consumerism works.
Literally, right? So it's like you can create, I mean, especially on TikTok with everything and the speed of that, and everything is like clickbait and every headline feels like a porn somehow to me. Mm-hmm. Like everything is so sort of guttural and raw, and it like tries to hit you in the places where you're the weakest.
I hate that.
It makes me so sad.
Yeah, that to me is a very low frequency, very low vibration.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's the most disgusting thing I think with spirituality. It's how many people are preying on like people going through a really difficult time, and I hate that.
Yeah. Yes. Are you desperate for an answer? Give me your credit card number.
Yes. And I think that it's our job as spiritual practitioners to try to help people develop a practice that is going to establish like good spiritual hygiene.
I love
so that you can use it on the good days, on the bad days, when things are really chaotic, and then when things are just like neutral, maybe chaotic neutral, but just like, you know, when you're stagnant, it sucks. Yeah. And if you have a spiritual practice, you know that you're working towards something, you know? Yeah. And you're not just twiddling your thumbs waiting for an email, you know?
Right.
That you're actually still in process.
Well, that's what I love about it. I mean, and I love that I learned the phrasing, you know, spiritual hygiene from you. And I really love that, really resonated with me. I love that. Just because, like, I think that's something that has always bothered me about any type of religion. Where it's like, well, we're only praying when we need something, or, you know, it's kind of like, but if you're always consistently doing it, if you're always showing up, you know, to the coven for the full moon, for the new moon, then it's just like, this is just part of your life now.
Right.
And it always is.
Right. And there can be times when where you're really seeing everything just like popping off and coming to fruition, and it all feels like, wow. I mean, that's a harvest, right?
Yeah.
That's a harvest time. And then there's also times when you're like planting seeds and getting gross and waiting, and then it's raining, and it's like, what the hell is going on?
Yeah.
And that's not sexy. And that's the seasons, you know? Mm-hmm. And some seasons astrologically are not just a quarter of a year. Sometimes there's multiple years. Mm-hmm. And it sucks, but that's true. Yeah. You know, and life hopefully is long enough that we can weather those times when we're just feeling like we're waiting.
Right.
But if we have a practice, then we're really not just waiting. You know, we're also doing, and we're also sort of ensuring that things are aligning in an honest and authentic way, rather than just like Band-Aids and quick fixes that are not meant to last.
Yeah. I love that. Well, thank you.
This has been amazing.
I love having you're one of my favorite people on the internet. I check your profile so much. It's like the internet probably thinks you're my
dating.
ex-girlfriend. Yeah. There's a couple people I always go to, like almost not every day, to be like, did they post anything? I got to get this info.
Oh.
So thank you so much for coming in and sharing your wisdom. And what do you want to promote? Your book, your podcast, everything.
Yeah, lots of things. I have a new podcast that's called Horoscope Weekly, which is your weekly horoscope.
That's
Believe
so
it or
cool.
not.
Definitely gonna listen.
Really excited. I haven't ever done podcast horoscopes.
Oh, cool.
So this is a first for me, and I feel like it's been a long time coming.
Nice.
And it's going to be, I mean, speaking of a practice, it's really about helping establish a sort of like Monday ritual. Going into your week.
I love that.
And then I also have my 5th book coming out.
Holy crap.
In October, which is called It's All Magic. And it's 365 entries to help build a spiritual practice over a year.
Perfect.
So
Perfect for the student in me. We love.
Yes.
Love a homework assignment.
Yeah, exactly.
Love a homework assignment.
A+.
Yeah.
So yes,
Yay,
check it all
thank you so
out.
much.
Thank you so much for
Lovely.
joining us. Always a pleasure to speak with you. And also don't use anything that we talked about today to not take control over your own life. That's
entertainment purposes only.
not even entertainment, but just like, I feel like sometimes people go, well, my astrology spoke for it. I'm just going to lean back. I can just see people doing that at home now. So no, you still got to, do stuff.
Yeah.
This has been Guys We Fucked, the anti-slut shaming podcast. We will talk to you next Friday.